Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is put frame rails in this old Mustang. So I got that frame rail in last week. It's looking pretty good. So the next endeavor is to put this other side frame rail in. So of course, first thing I have to do is take the old frame rail out and some floor. This is the pile. This is the old frame rail. That's the inside of the old frame rail. It actually looks galvanized. I'm not sure these old cars were galvanized, but I don't know. That's pretty rust free and it looks galvanized, but don't know, not an expert. But I pulled all this floor stuff out. I still got to do some cleaning up on here and there. I made it look just like the other side. Flame cut this, or yeah, I got a little bit of cleanup to do there. This is, yeah, you can see why this is not gonna line up with. It can't be perfect like it over there. There's some little gaps here and there, and that's because it's just not at a constant radius, so I can't really bend 1/8 inch material to all the little contortions of this sheet metal, but that's fine. It's what it is. Like I got my night light down here. Oh, and I left it on, so it's dead. Anyway, so yeah, that's all the frame rail. I'm leaving it on there just for temporary structure. I ended up doing this a little bit different on this side, because I didn't use an angle grinder on this. I used a body saw. So I think this is a little bit tidier than it was on the other side, but you know, after you do it once, twice, 15 times, you get better at it. So I think I got better at it. And then this is the trunk. So this still has some material over here I gotta trim up. But this is where a little bit of trimming has to be done on this guy as well. But that's where the frame's going to sit, and this is the original part that used to flip down. So it's going to kind of look like this when it's done. I'll make the, see how this is kind of straight. I'll make it the same on the other side. And then I'm intentionally not welding this because I have to weld the crossbeam in. I have to design the rear suspension before I do that. So anyway, that's where we're at. It's all looking really similar to the other side. So I did the left side frame rail, I don't know, a month ago or whatever. And doing the second one. Of course you get better at it when you do the first one versus the second one. And one of the things that I did notice is I cut this frame rail and this the top of the frame rail, top and bottom of the frame rail, out of a piece of 4x8 plate. You get to 11 gauge steel, 120 thou thick. And I used a straight edge to do that with my plasma cutter, and then I checked to see if it was you know, straight, and it wasn't. So on the first one, what I did was I put it on my CNC mill table, which is, I don't know, 40 inches long or something. So not quite as long as the frame rail, but pretty long. But that's kind of a pain in the ass to wander over there a million times. So I bought a nice, well, I don't know if it's nice or not, but it's a straight edge. It's got numbers on it, but I don't really need it for that. I just need it to be straight. And what I found out was, after cutting a new piece, because I noticed these had like a bow to them, is that actually there was a internal stress in that 4x8 sheet from the manufacturing process, from rolling it, and when you cut it, it actually twists on you. So what I had was these tops and bottoms that were about an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch of bow to them. So what I did for the right side is I just recut those oversized. I made one side straight just with a hand grinder. You know, that guy. Used my straight edge to make sure it was straight, and then went over to the bandsaw, and there's a bandsaw over there somewhere. Yeah, that thing. And then cut the other side straight, and then I measured it with my calipers every 2 or 3 inches, and made it within. Yeah, see, here's my dimensions: 2.74, 2.75, 2.76. So it's within, you know, 10 thousandths or something. I didn't do that with this one, however, because it doesn't really matter with that one, because the way I have this jigged up, I started at the back, and I got that tied up into the trunk floor, and then I just clamped it. As I worked from the back, I clamped it, put screws in it where I can't get clamps. So it sucks this right up to that floor. And then when I put the side pieces on there, I'm going to go MIG weld under there every, you know, couple inches. And then that'll hold it to the shape, right? Once I TIG weld this, or MIG weld this to the side of it, it will hold the top to the shape, and then we'll do the same thing as before. But yeah, be careful when you're cutting out straight pieces or even crooked pieces. They're gonna twist a little bit because of the internal stresses in the material. So it wasn't a lot, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. It's just an old Mustang. They never built these things that close anyway, but this is the foundation for the entire car. So I'm working really hard to make it as straight as I possibly can. Measuring, you know, where everything lived prior to it, and make sure it's nice and straight and square, right? Because if you start dealing with a crooked foundation, it just gets into a big mess later. So, so that's why my plan is to get the left frame rail in, get the right frame rail in, and then put the cage in it while it's all nice and square here. And then once the cage is in, it ain't going anywhere, right? It's super stiff. And then I can start hanging body panels on it. And I want to, before I get all of this stuff welded in, I want to hang the fenders, the hood, and then doors. And then once all the front stuff is lined up, then I can get these guys in the right spot. But if I put these guys in, it's a dick dance to get everything aligned in the front, right? Because all that stuff has to align with the cowl, which is part of the unibody, right? So first I'll get the hood aligned with the cowl, and then I'll get the fenders aligned with the cowl and the hood, and then I'll get the front of the doors aligned with the fenders, and then this stuff will be the last. It seems backwards, right? Because this is like a permanent part of the chassis, but that's what I'm gonna do, so I don't have to fuck around with, you know, trying to fix door seams and stuff like that. And then once this guy is in place, then I'll start working on, you know, obviously when these go on, the trunk has to go on, but it's not going to have a trunk. It's going to have a hatchback. So I'll start working on all hatchback stuff. So, and all that stuff is catted up loosely right now until I get farther along. But all this inner structure is probably going to not be there, right? The wheel tubs are going to get wider, and I'm going to have a pretty sturdy cross beam back here, because that's got to support the rear wing and the hatch. That's going to be way different than trunk stuff, and it won't have this through part, right? So that's all going to be tied into the roll cage and roll hoop and stuff like that. So that's my plan. And the roll cage is going to be mounted in a little bit different way than normal, right? It's not going to go onto the floor. So I'm thinking about not putting the floor in for quite some time, actually. I'm thinking about, because the roll cage is going to mount into here, not into the floor. So I don't need the floor. And it's just going to be easier to work on the dash and all the stuff if I can stand on the floor, which is the cement floor, not the vehicle floor, and work on things. So I'm really considering not putting the floor in. I mean, it will be up on, once the cage is in, it'll be able to be put back on the rotisserie and rotated and stuff, but it'll still be nicer to be able to work on it in a standing on the floor kind of scenario. Okay, so I got this all fitted. These lean clamps as usual. You can see how nice that's sucked up to the floor all the way. So now I'm gonna MIG welderize that guy in. And then from there it'll be all work on the bench till it goes back in there. Okay, I got all those tack welds in, and now I have it clamped all together here, and one more mosquito gun. So yeah, I clamped some 1, 2, 3 blocks. Just, it was pretty parallel, but this will hold it there. It's fairly good, but when I weld it, it's going to try to move. So this is just kind of to hold it in place while the weld is cooling. I may have to bonk it with a hammer again like I did the other one, but I'm definitely getting better at this. So this one came out much closer to ideal, except for here. But I can fill that in with weld. It's fine. And then this gets chopped off approximately at this point where the 3x3 attaches to it. So anyway, it's all looking pretty tidy. If you don't have a lot of clamps in your shop, you never have enough. Okay, so I got this all tigged up. Again, not the best welder in the world, but they don't usually break. So now I just gotta put this side on, hold it perpendicular and even, and then I'll make a cut 3 inches from there to there, and take the jigsaw to make that nice and even, and then I'll put that piece on. So next I got to put this piece, then I'll put this piece, and then we'll have a full rail, and we'll bolt it in. In case you're wondering, it takes 2 of these 3-foot sticks of 1/16 inch wire to do that weld all the way. So approximately, I mean, depends how big the gap is, but that's about what it took on the last one. So. Okay, so this thing's all painted on the inside and kind of bent sort of in place. This will get bent down when after I tack it here. I'll just, you know, boop, boop, like the last one. Anyway, so now I just gotta do a bunch of tack welds every, I don't know, 4 inch or something, maybe one here, one here, one here. And then I'll fit it back into the underside of the car again, make sure it fits, and then we'll finish welding it, assuming it's not going to move, but of course it will, because, you know, heat. Okay, so that's, I don't know, 3/4 of the way done. It's pretty easy along the straight areas because not a lot is happening. And then once you start getting to the turns, you gotta like put welds really close together to hold it, because I'm actually bending this piece as I go. So you gotta get it perpendicular and parallel and straight and everything, tack it, and then bend it a little more. And so you, like going around the corners, you can only go an inch or so at a time. Whereas the straight sections you can go, I don't know, 5-6 inches between them. Anyway, this is how you do it. That's how I do it. I don't know. In order to make it fit to the bottom of the existing floor, this is, I think, the only way to do it and get it proper. Because you can't bend this and get this arc and this arc bent that close together. I mean, unless you made a custom die or whatever, which I'm making 2 of them, so probably not feasible. Okay, so these giblets out of the way. So there it is in all its glory. Lots of measuring, lots of tacking. The nice thing about these little tack welds is I could adjust it a little bit with a ball peen hammer, because it's just a small tack. So I could tap, 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 measure it with some calipers, and get it to kind of into submission. But anyway, that's what it looks like. We'll get this thing off the workbench and jammed in there. Okay, so I wrangled this guy into place, and I have, yeah, it doesn't quite fit. And you can see there's a pretty big gap right here, I think. Yeah, that's better. And there's no gap here. So where that black line is drawn up there, I need to trim, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch off of there. Because what's happening is this thing is twisted that way. It fit before because this piece wasn't on there. Right? It was just this piece and that piece. So I just need to trim that. It's better to have stuff to trim off than to, you know, cut it too big. The first side doesn't look that bad either, but alright, so I don't know if you can see that little sliver of the piece. That's what I removed. That guy. And I actually measured from the other frame rail over there, my yo-yo. And it turns out, yeah, I had that wrong. There's a little whoopee in there too. I might clean that up. See, that's not super straight. I can see it with my eye. Maybe it doesn't show up on the camera, but anyway, we'll test fit it again. I think I might need to take a little bit off of right there, which is fine. And then I'll have to get in here with a wire wheel and clean all the rust and put some primer underneath it, but I mean, call that rust. But this definitely does look galvanized because that and that are the same age, and this is definitely way different though. Anyway, insignificant amount of rust. Not to worry. By the way, if you're scraping undercoating off, don't use a wire brush. You might as well just use like a chisel. It comes off in nice big flakes like that. Way easier. Otherwise, it just melts and smears it around and makes it a bigger mess for you. I'm into not making bigger messes. Except for this car, maybe this Bronco, I don't know. Everything I work on, probably. Okay, so I started welding this other frame rail, and it gets kind of hot after a while, so you have to do it for a little bit and then chill. But anyway, you kind of have to bounce around a little bit, or else it'll put too much stress into one side of it when it shrinks. So you just kind of have to weld a little here and a little here and jump around. So anyway, this is, I don't know, maybe half done. It's cooled off enough that I can rest my hand on it and finish it, but that's kind of what it looks like. Takes a lot of time, but that's how it works. So there, we got it all welded up now. Well, not completely done. I still need to put a plate on the back here so I can rosette weld that to the rear balance thingy, but yep. So now I'm just going to clean these welds up and prettify them, kind of sand it a little bit with that guy, make a nice finish, and then clean it and put some weld through primer on it. Top of the morning to you. So ignore the chickens in the background, I guess rooster, whatever. So I got this kind of finished up yesterday. Got quite a bit of work done yesterday actually. Got this all welded and painted. Scraped more junk off the bottom of the car. Got all this down to bare metal. I did film down here, but so that's all clean and ready to go. Got the holes for the rosette weld here. And all these ready to go. This is all down to bare metal and weld through primer on it. Looks like Swiss cheese, but those will all get plug welded. So yeah, had to bend that little guy down there to get the frame rail in. I also finished this guy. It's all notched to go in here. And this guy. This time, in order to make this nice and perpendicular, I set it up on the milling machine. you know, because my cold saw doesn't really, so I bolted the, bolted to the table, the vise to the table that way so I could machine that. Gonna be a nice day today. I gotta get going on this stupid thing. Anyway, that's what's holding up the Bronco program. Gotta make some aluminum uprights. I gotta get that thing operational. So anyway, too many things to work on. I also gotta bolt this bad boy to the trailer so I can get bending up a roll cage. Probably should mount that tire. Anyway, this is just sounding like a list of things to do for me. But you gotta pick a priority in the morning and stick with it, or else nothing gets done. Okay, so I'm fixing to get ready to weld this thing up. You can kind of see how that, there's a couple little wrinkles here and there, but it's pretty, ouch, it's pretty snug. All measured it up. Measure twice, cut once. So, yeah, time to sparklate. Got the rosette holes in there. Some in there. I'll have to tap this down after it's tacked in. And yeah. Have to do a little bit of shrinking in here. This one's kind of, it wasn't a real good radius, so once I get this thing tacked in, I'll just heat this up and hammer it down till this is even here. So that's my plan anyway. Okay, so back. It's a bright and lovely sunshiny day. So now I got these frame rails in. I mean, they're just tacked in, but they're not going anywhere. They're supporting the car good. I can not have to worry about it flexing too much anymore. So the next thing I'm going to do is this stuff is all drawn in CAD, but it's not exactly correct, right? Because trying to get this, you know, exactly where it is on this car, right? It's close. It's within probably 1/4 of an inch or so. But now that I'm going to start building the cage and other stuff, I got to get this into CAD closer than it is currently. This is kind of how I operate. I get a general plan and I put it in CAD and go, yep, I think that there's a solution somewhere. And then as I get farther along, the plan kind of migrates a little bit, and then I reassess what I've done and update that into CAD. And then so the roll cage is drawn. The basic design of it's drawn. Like if you looked at a picture from 30 feet, the final design is going to look like that, but it may have a different angle. You know, it may be the position here might be slightly different. It might be leaned back at a different angle, right? So that's what I'm going to go do now. I'm going to get all the measurements from what I've done so far, and where the fuel tanks live, and then get that all into CAD so I can like start cutting and bending some tubes up. Thanks for watching. If you like this content and want more, subscribe, like, and share.